Week 14 of the fantasy football season. Here's the top 12 defense DST units. I'm ranking this week number 1, the Dallas Cowboys. So last week, what a ball game it was for this Dallas Cowboy defense, destroying that Indianapolis Colts offense in the fourth quarter with touchdowns, interceptions, fumble recoveries, sacks. Matt Ryan, he was a crash test dummy by the end of that ball game. And now with Davis Mills back in the starting lineup here for the Houston Texans, that's obviously not going to give them really much of a fighting chance versus this defensive line of Micah Parsons over there, DeMarcus Lawrence, Williams, and the rest of the guys on this Cowboy front. So right here, this Cowboy defense playing at an all-time level right now. It's a home game for them, which is obviously always a plus. And this Texan team, we saw a mediocre Brown team last week score over 30 fantasy points. If Cowboys are hitting all cylinders, they might have a 30-plus fantasy day as well at the defensive position. Number 2, the Kansas City Chiefs. So the Chiefs here with a good matchup at the Denver Broncos. And more times than not, this Chief defense in fantasy leagues, when they verse pretty bad offenses, come through with decent fantasy days. So this week here, the Denver Bronco team that just can't move the football. Russell Wilson, he hasn't looked like himself now over the last couple seasons. Cortland Sutton might not play in this game. And Russell Wilson doesn't really have chemistry with anyone but Greg Dulcich and Sutton if he plays, like I said, in this game. So right here, this Chief defense, I think, can make a few plays. After a tough loss last week, I think they're going to come back a little more focused in this one. And their offensive line as well isn't great over there in Denver. So I think they can have a good ball game as Kansas City. At number 2, number 3, the Philadelphia Eagles. So the Eagles, their defense has been a great unit this season here, getting to the quarterback early and often, stopping the run game for the most part. And this week here, they got a good matchup at the New York Giants, where Daniel Jones, he's turnover prone, and he's a guy that holds on to the football a lot as well. So right now, this Eagle team, they want to pretty much wrap up everything within the next few weeks. And I think they go into MetLife Stadium in this one and take care of business with the offense getting off to an early start and making the Giants one-dimensional. And that's been the game plan all season for Philadelphia. The offense gets up 7-10 points quick, and then they make opposing offenses, this defense, one-dimensional. And this is where they're going to tee you off with one of the best defensive lines in the league here versus a mediocre Giant O-line and Daniel Jones, who sometimes makes poor decisions. So I got them at 3, number 4, Buffalo Bills. So this Jet offense definitely has improved over the last few weeks, going from Zach Wilson to Mike White at quarterback here. But we know Von Miller's out for the season with an ACL and MCL injury here. But still, this Bill defense has the guys on the line. And they're a team that could get to the quarterback. And Mike White, a lot of Jet fans and a lot of players on the Jets are behind him. But I think a lot of hype for Mike White. We saw last season he got off to a good start in the few games he started and then fizzled out quickly, and then they benched him. So right now, this is a tough game for Mike White and the Jets. And I think this Bill team, after losing in Week 9, they're going to come out with fire and desire in this one to get off to a quick start and start on the defensive end, especially in Buffalo. So I like them this week. And number 4, number 5, the Seattle Seahawks. So the Seahawks, they've been a good matchup-based fantasy defense this season. And right here, a good matchup with the Panthers coming to town to the 12th man in Seattle. So right now, Sam Darnold's the quarterback over there. Baker Mayfield, he went and got claimed by the Los Angeles Rams. And it don't matter. I think the Seahawk defense can make a few plays in this ball game. And this offense, it's a great offense this year for the Seattle team, even though Kenneth Walker might not play in this ball game. But they could get off to a good start, 10, 14-point lead, and make Sam Darnold try to beat them. That's a recipe for success for this defense. And I think this week here, they'll make a few plays, possibly find the end zone. And I got them at 5. Number 6, the Baltimore Ravens. So the Ravens, they've been a hot and cold type of defensive unit this season here in fantasy football. But this week, I like the matchup. This offense of the Pittsburgh Steelers, they don't really move the football at a rapid pace, and they don't find the end zone a lot. A lot of field goals they've been settling for, especially the last 3 weeks here. Good matchup for Baltimore. I know they're going into Pittsburgh, but they're going to have to rely on the defense maybe a little bit more in this one, even though I know Tyler Huntley's a pretty solid quarterback that I think have a decent fantasy day this week. But anyway, in a matchup where you know it's going to be a grinded-out division battle between the Ravens and the Steelers in the mid-teens to 20s, I like Baltimore. And number 6, number 7, the Vegas Raiders. So the Raiders is a 1-week-only use. I like them as a defense this week, even though last week they had a pretty decent ball game. Was that Raider defense versus a pretty solid Charger offense. So right now, this week, a good matchup at the Rams. It's either going to be Sam Perkins, Wolford, or Baker Mayfield, who don't know the playbook at all, starting this ball game on Thursday Night Football. But I think this Raider team, I know they're probably out of it this season, but they've been hot over the last few weeks, winning ball games in shootout fashion and playing good defense over the last couple weeks. So this week, I think whoever the quarterback is for the Rams isn't going to do much. Cooper Kupp's out, Allen Robinson out for the season. Offensive line is a mess. And I think this Raider defense could have a solid ball game. Number 8, the New England Patriots. So the Patriots versus the Arizona Cardinals on Monday Night Football here. And I think the Patriots could get to Kyler Murray a few times. And Bill Belichick, he's going to have the plays written up. And pretty much the Patriots are coming off a bye week with 11 days off playing last Thursday night versus the Buffalo Bills. So right here, they're going to be refreshed and rejuvenated. And after a tough loss to Buffalo, that took care of them pretty easily. I think the Patriots come out in this one and they're going to try to win with their blueprint, playing defense and running the football. And I think they could get to Murray. I know DeAndre Hopkins is always a matchup nightmare, but I think the Patriots in this one could have a decent ball game. And I got them at 8. Number 9, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So the Bucs go to San Francisco. Brock Purdy, the starting quarterback there now, with Jimmy Garoppolo out with the foot injury. And we saw last week the Bucs have a mediocre ball game, giving up 16 points, and Andy Dalton, they got to him a few times in that one, pulling it out at the end 17-16. But this week I could see a similar type of ball game where both offenses struggle and actually have them back-to-back, obviously, with Tampa at number 9 and the 49ers number 10 here. So 49ers, their defense has been great. Last week, they pretty much, second half of that one, shut down Tua and that Dolphin offense, even though I know Jalen Waddle left later in that game and Tua banged up with the ankle injury. But San Francisco, if they could get a hand on Tom Brady, they're going to get a few sacks in this game, even though Tom Brady still has the magic here and there. We saw it last week. I think the Niners have a good game at home where their defense brings it on another level at home than they have on the road this season. So this week here, this defense knows they got to play a little bit harder, obviously with Jimmy Garoppolo out and Brock Purdy at quarterback. So this defense here, Nick Bosa leading the way, getting to the quarterback, and a good secondary, I think, has a decent ball game because it's a tough matchup. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, if they're clicking and Tom Brady's clicking, they could be in trouble a little bit. But I think this Niner team could hold it down a little bit in this ball game. So I got them at 10. Number 11, the Cincinnati Bengals. So the Bengals, their defense has been improving a little bit over the last few weeks. And this week here, not the greatest of matchups, but after what I saw from Deshaun Watson last week, we don't know what we're going to get from him. He looked rusty. He looked like he didn't know the playbook that good was Deshaun Watson. And obviously, he don't really have chemistry with Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and David Njoku if he comes back in this one. But obviously, Nick Chubb is one of the best running backs in the league and could definitely give this Bengal defense trouble, no doubt about it. But this week, I think the Bengals, they could have a mediocre game, anywhere from 7 to 9 fantasy points. And a lot of people here, they need an option off the waiver wire this week. And the Bengals are still out there, 50% of fantasy leagues. And the 12th and final defense I'm ranking this week is the Tennessee Titans. So the Titans, their defense definitely plays with grit and hard-nosed football at home than it does on the road. And this Titan team shaking things up a little bit. The GM, he got fired this week here. And this is a ball game where they got to come out in a division matchup versus the Jacksonville Jaguars and play good football. This Jaguar offense has been a hit-or-miss type of offense this season, but the same thing here with Jacksonville. They're a better team at home with the offense than they are on the road, and luckily for the Titans, it's a home game, and I think in this one they could get to Trevor Lawrence a few times, and Trevor Lawrence, I don't even know how he made it out of that ball game unscathed. I thought he broke his leg or tore the ACL last week at the Detroit Lions, but he'll be back. But this Titan pass rush could get to the quarterback, and like I said, they should be fired up with the GM fired and the ball game they need within the division. So I think they could be number 12 this week. So that's the top 12 defense DST units I'm ranking for week 14 of the fantasy football season.